Hello and welcome to the Midwest Motoring Podcast, sponsored by Hagerty. My name is Matt Pesiconis, and I will be your host today. I first wanted to say thank you to all of our listeners for putting up with us. Last week, we did want to take some time off from our long-form version just to spend the Labor Day holiday with our families. But we are going to be getting back to the long-form version this week. But I also did want to put out these shorter insurance-based format as well to you guys. From our sponsor, Hagerty, they just wanted to make sure that we reminded everybody that if you've got a classic car or if you've got any type of collectible vehicle, give Hagerty a try. They do the guaranteed value policies on these types of vehicles. And today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about some of their high-end products that we deal with our expert and private client collectors. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hagerty Private Client. What is it? Well, Hagerty Private Client was built around the idea that if you have a client that has many vehicles, whether it be a investment collection, whether it be out of pure passion, the stakes for loss are even greater on these high-value collections. And Hagerty spent just many years, I think more than 30 years, trying to build the best in-class coverage for the expertise and the private client collector. It begins with our policy coverages. We'd like to think that these types of coverages are unique to Hagerty, things like our cherished salvage endorsement, and we exceed expectations by helping to cultivate this lifestyle for our expert and private client collectors. You will always have a dedicated team member to answer questions and concerns in regards to your collection, including offer valuation expertise, assisting with classic overseas travel, and finding rare and unique auto parts for those collectible vehicles through our Hagerty Concierge service. Offering Hagerty Private Client services allows you to focus fully on preserving and celebrating your client's collection because we take care of protecting their investment. So we talked a little bit about this type of policy for our private client services, or as we call it sometimes, our expert collector policies, is really focused around the idea of maintaining a collection for your client and giving them the types of protections that they as a collector need. Things like, and we'll go over these in detail, but these are just some of the cornerstones of our types of policy. So we do VIN and title theft protection, evacuation expense coverage, spare parts automatically on the policy, automatic new purchase coverage, guaranteed value coverage, trip interruption coverage, international coverage, and things like our cherished salvage endorsement. So let's get into that. First and foremost, one of the biggest ones that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of is our cherished salvage. A lot of these types of cars that clients and our private client services will be after have either sentimental value or extreme values that they want to make sure that in the event of a total loss, they're not only holding on to the rights to that salvage, but they're also getting the agreed value that they had put on the car prior to the policy going into effect. And what our cherished salvage endorsement allows is not only do you automatically get your salvage, but then we will also be applying the entire amount back to the client. So if they have a car insured for $50,000 with the cherished salvage endorsement, if something happens to the car, they'll get the salvage. They don't have to purchase it from us. They don't have to purchase it from a site. They just automatically can retain ownership of the salvage, and then we will provide them with the check for the total amount. VIN and title theft protection. If your client's VIN is used fraudulently or unlawfully, this coverage can cover up to $50,000 or less if the vehicle is valued less for approved expenses to establish ownership. This includes if your client purchases a vehicle with a fraudulent title, if the classic is confiscated by a public authority. Evacuation expense. This one's huge. Evacuation expense basically means that we'll cover up to $250 per vehicle per event or $2,500 per vehicle per year for moving these types of vehicles out of situations where maybe there's a hurricane, floods, or any types of declared states of emergency happen in a covered area. We'll actually pay half the expense. This allows us to make sure that clients and their collection are properly taken care of, to give them the knowledge that, look, we're trying to pay attention to this stuff so they don't really have to, and that we want to make sure that we help them get their cars out of the way. Spare part coverage is our next big topic. That's where we cover $2,500 of automatic coverage for spare parts. However, we can change that value at any point in time, so you automatically get $2,500 in spare part coverage, but we can go higher if your client has spare engines, spare hoods, tops, things like that to cars. We can absolutely make sure that their high-end collectible vehicles are properly protected that way. Another big one that I get asked a lot about is our automatic new purchase coverage. A lot of my agents know that adding an exotic or high-value vehicle to a policy is, especially day of purchase, is extremely hard. And a lot of times the agent has to then go back to the client and say, we can't do this today. It has to sit in underwriting. It has to wait. We're giving a different timeline, and the client will get very upset. And I don't blame them. And if they're the type of client that has these level of collections, they kind of are in and out, constantly adding and removing vehicles from their collection. So the automatic new purchase coverage says when adding to a collection, your client's newly acquired collectible vehicle will automatically be covered for 90 days. This coverage will equal to the car's value of the highest valued vehicle on your policy. So up to $5 million. So if you're going out and you buy a $50,000 car and the highest value vehicle on your policy is $100,000, you have up to the $100,000 worth of coverage for that first 90 days. But that allows us to add the vehicle, make sure that they have coverage. And if your client is purchasing high value vehicles, they can rest assured that they have automatic coverage just like a standard auto would, but with our guaranteed value policy. We talk about this a lot. What the heck is guaranteed value coverage? Your client's classics are covered for their true total value in the event of a covered total loss. No worries about depreciation or negotiating with the insurance company at the time of loss. We talk up front with the client and say, what is the value? We help them decide how we place the value, where it's at. And once all parties agree to the value, that is the locked in total amount in case that car is ever totaled. Trip interruption coverage. Trip interruption coverage kind of explains itself. However, just to go into it a little bit, if you have a covered accident and it happens while your client is traveling in a collectible vehicle, they actually will be able to be paid up to $1,500 in coverages for related expense for car rentals, hotels, fuel, that kind of thing. International coverage. A lot of our high-end clients will travel overseas to receive a car or get delivery of a special car. So we can work with that client in certain situations to help those traveling collectors get physical damage for excess liability. We also want to make sure that we have the value guard on there. And what the value guard means is it basically the insured value of each vehicle is increased by 2% at the end of every quarter to help protect their cars in collection against midterm market inflation. So we're basically trying to make sure we put some inflation guard on there that says, maybe the vehicle has shot up. Well, we will always try to make sure that the client knows that they can give us a call and talk about their market value and things like that. So value changes. How does it work? Don't worry. If the market increases above the value of your client's classic and a covered vehicle or total or partial loss happens, he or she will receive up to 150% of the insured value. So let's go over that again. We talked about guaranteed value. We talked about agreed value and our value market protection. So again, how does this work? If your client has a loss and we see that the value of those vehicles has shot up over the last month, quarter, whatever it may be, they can receive actually up to 150% of the insured value of the car. So that means that, if all of a sudden there's a huge uptick again on Porsches, guess what? That car will probably have a little bit of extra value. Well, if the client doesn't call in when those values see to go up and we notice it at the time of loss, we'll pay up to that 150% of the insured value. So those are just some of the really big cornerstones and pillars of our Hagerty Private Client Services policy. So a lot of my agents will ask me, how do I qualify one of my clients for Hagerty's Private Client policies? We can do it one of two ways. The first way is going to have a collection of 6 or more vehicles valued at $250,000 or more. So that's any of those 6 vehicles or more if the value exceeds $250,000. And that's just not just cars. So keep in mind that the vehicles could be classic motorcycles, boats, classic tractors, military vehicles. Any of the standard vehicles that we can cover on our normal policies qualify for those vehicles. So again, the first way to qualify is to have 6 or more cars at $250,000 or more. The second way to qualify would be to have any number of cars if the value exceeds $500,000. So that may be 1 vehicle, 2, 3, any number. If the value of that collectible policy exceeds the $500,000 amount, it's automatically considered one of our private client policies. So folks, I just wanted to take the time to talk a little bit about our private client service and our expert collectible policies with you. I wanted to make sure that all of my agents knew that their high-value clients, if they have automobile collections, if they have collections of tractors, if they have collections of retired commercial vehicles, boats, whatever it may be, they're going to be much better protected and much better serviced in terms of having a dedicated team within Hagerty to work with them and go through all these situations that they may potentially be in. We want to make sure that we are giving these collections the best protections that they can absolutely afford. So give us a call Hagerty direct, talk with your agent, or give me a call. I'm the regional territory manager with Hagerty here in Columbus, Ohio. So if you're based in the Ohio area, give me a call. My number is 614-704-7437. Again, 614-704-7437. I'd be happy to walk anyone through our private client policies in details. Again, all your client has to do to qualify is to have 6 or more vehicles at $250,000 for the collection, or any number of vehicles if that value exceeds $500,000. And we want to make sure that they're properly protected when it comes to any types of losses that they may incur. So give us a call. We're happy to answer any questions for you guys. Once again, thanks so much for joining us here on the Midwest Motoring Podcast, sponsored by Hagerty. I wanted to, again, say thank you to Hagerty for all the support that they're doing. Keep reaching out to us, everyone. Let us know what you like. Let us know if there's topics you would like us to cover, especially when it comes to insurance. I want to make sure that we do actually have a live read of some of your questions on our podcast, specifically regarding insurance. So I want to make sure all of you are educated consumers or educated agents on the Hagerty process, as well as insurance in general. Because again, when I was an agent, my favorite conversations were with people who had knowledge, who knew what they wanted, knew what they had coming in, and could have that conversation with regards to their risk and protecting their valuables and their assets. So please reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook at Midwest Motoring Podcast. You can find us on any of your favorite podcasting services. Subscribe to the Midwest Motoring Podcast. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a review. We want to make sure that we're getting to them. And we've gotten a couple reviews saying that, we've got to work on our audio sound, and we're working on it. So we're trying to do as best we can to make sure that everyone is enjoying the podcast to the fullest. So again, thank you so much for all your feedback. Like always, stay safe, stay healthy, keep driving.